Tonight, Donald Trump is pushing back on reports that a top general is wary of striking Iran. As Trump's decision to strike hangs in the balance, the Washington Post reports Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane is cautioning that both a lack of munitions and support from allies could put U.S. troops in danger. On social media, President Trump called that reporting 100% incorrect. Now, my understanding is we have a little bit more agreement than we often have at the table at an evening like this between the two of you. Congressman Lawler and Gottheimer put out this joint statement on Iran. We know that Tehran is still pursuing a nuclear weapon, and since the June conflict has moved aggressively to rebuild its ballistic missile capabilities, you say we respect and defend Congress's constitutional role in matters of war, oversight, debate, vital. However, this resolution would restrict the flexibility needed to respond to real and evolving threats and risks signaling weakness at a dangerous moment. So, Congressman, is this moment one that you think the president should seize to try to instigate regime change in Iran or not?
Well, we know that the government of Iran has killed tens of thousands of their own people seeking freedom and democracy. We know that Iran's leading mantra, the government there, is death to America. We know they've increased, as you mentioned, their ballistic missile capabilities. They're a huge threat to the United States of America. They've killed Americans. They've killed our servicemen and women. They've attacked our bases. And the bottom line is, I think, putting maximum pressure on the government there and the Ayatollah to get out of the way. So is that
a yes? You'd support strikes?
I would support the president continuing to push Iran as he's doing right now. They have more talks this week, and to using all resources necessary to make sure we get the outcome that I think is critical. You can't, remember, the government of Iran is our enemy. They align closely with our top adversaries like China and Russia, and we know what they're doing to destabilize the region and kill Americans. So and from my perspective, and I think Mike and I agree with this, you would not right now tie up any negotiation. Right? You want to keep the pressure on. You don't want to mess with the negotiations. And why would we do that preemptively? It's different, of course, if there's a strike and then go to the Congress there's a notification process, and then the Congress can decide if there's further action necessary. But the bottom line right now is we're in a very tenuous moment, and we shouldn't do anything to undermine those negotiations.
The War Powers Act requires a 48-hour notice after a strike. That is the requirement. Now, the administration can and has, in many instances, and prior administrations, notified Congress in advance of a strike. But when you look at, for instance, the strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, that was a top secret mission that needed to be kept under wraps. And that came after the president had given the Ayatollah and the regime 60 days to negotiate. And they refused to come to the table and come to an agreement. The president has given them further time to negotiate on their ballistic missiles program, on their sponsoring of terrorism. This is the greatest state sponsor of terrorism. They have worked with China in the illicit oil trade that has funded their nuclear ambitions, funded Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis. The president has the responsibility as commander-in-chief to protect our country, to protect our interests abroad and at home. For Congress to take action to try and restrict that and restrict his ability to protect this country against a known adversary, I think is dangerous. And I think it is contrary to what Democrats have had as a position when it comes to President Obama in Libya, for instance.
Well,
this is wrong to try and preemptively tie the hands of the administration.
Look, I don't think, I mean, it is, in my opinion, I think it's not a if, it's a when in this case.
Yeah, well, and David, can I put it to you this way? Because, look, you know better than anyone else sitting at this table what the stakes are here, right? And when you see Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, reportedly warning behind the scenes that this could be a rough go for the United States.
I guarantee you that all those generals are talking about this, right? It's what you do. This is you talk
That's
about
their job.
That's their job. Their job is
to
put things at the table, and the president has to make tough decisions. The president has. You think that no president
and which force to use?
Democrats,
how to do that?
Republicans, nobody wants to go to Dover and do dignified, transfer remains.
Correct.
No president ever wants to do that, and so they think about these things in great detail. The men and women who are planning these missions do it with great, incredibly like detailed specificity. If you look, you don't have to even go to FlightAware, put in, look at all the military aircraft, every U.S. asset, Joint Rivet, C-117s, everything's flying to the Middle East. The ships that are in the region. It is apparent that something is going to happen. What scale is a thing to be determined? Is it going to be really big? Is it going to be, boots on the ground big? Is it going to be, what kind of weapon systems used? That is all what's being discussed at this point. I think, is these gentlemen just pointed out, the Ayatollah is not going to cooperate. He's never cooperated. This regime, since the Beirut bombing that killed our Marines until today, right? These people are pure evil, and something needs to be changed. The Persian people, right, who live in this country are a great culture, and they have corrupt leadership that needs to be gone.
I don't think anyone is disagreeing that the Islamic Republic Guard is the largest sponsor of terror in the entire world.
Right.
Hamas, Houthis, Hezbollah, all those things. But when we're talking about committing a large number of American troops, there has to be a debate, a case made to the American people about why this is important. And it's up to Congress to determine whether or not we're going to do this. And so I think about the lack of trust that exists right now with the general public and government. I think about people's skepticism about having Donald Trump as commander-in-chief and having this kind of power. We had a debate going to war in Iraq. And again, no one is debating that the IRG, they're a bunch of terrorists. They've done a lot of harm to people in Iran. People in Iran want to be free, and they're a biggest threat to democracy around the world because of terrorism. But this has to be a public conversation. Congress has to make the decision to do this because we need transparency. And we're talking about putting the lives of young men and women who wear the uniform. The best thing we can always do is to keep our young people out of harm's way, but we don't want to do something and commit a lot of troops with all the other things happening around the world as well.
Here's my concern about that, right? So the Congress, excuse me for the present company here, okay?
We have a good
from
forum,
2001 until the end of Afghanistan, did not have the spine to take up the authorization of use of military force and revisit it. We fought under the same authorization of use of military force from not post 9/11 until 25, because the Congress didn't want to debate it.
We tried to reform that last Congress. We tried to take that up as an issue, and what started on the Foreign Affairs Committee to go through that process to reform the AUMFs because they're outdated and they need to be reformed. But under Article 2, President Trump has the authority. And the fact here is that it is not right of Congress to try and restrict his ability in this moment in advance of any strike.
There's a huge difference between, I just want to say, there's a big difference between coming to Congress, which the president should, if there is going to be boots on the ground and a longer term incursion. I totally agree with you. We're talking about right now, where there are actually negotiations going on, keeping maximum pressure on them as they continue to threaten the United States of America, our servicemen and women, and our allies around the world. This is the moment we're in right now. So to preemptively do that and to tell the world, oh, here's our roadmap, when we point and have this debate before we even do anything.
Well, President's Article powers are to peak right now.
He's the commander-in-chief, so there's a difference between that and that.
We've already telegraphed that we plan on being there. We're moving people, we're moving equipment.
I just want to, I think it's important when you look at both the decision to strike Iran's nuclear facilities and the decision to remove Nicolas Maduro. In both instances, the administration gave the Ayatollah and Nicolas Maduro the ability to negotiate and to try and avoid the need for military action. But in both instances, ultimately, the president made a difficult, but in my opinion, necessary decision to strike at Iran's nuclear facilities and eliminate that threat, and to remove someone who was 3 times indicted in the United States for drug
hopefully
trafficking.
He's staring at that. Hopefully, the Ayatollah is staring at the pressure right now
and realizing
better back off and leave.